Now may I see, so we don't need to vote. Lift your cards high. Think of yoga positions. And breathe deeply. All right. All right. We have reached a simple majority, so the report has passed. The report means that is City Club's official position. We are adopting that there will be a no vote on Measure 34. Now we'll go through the same procedure. Just rest your arms for a moment. We'll go through the same procedure for ballot Measure 38. Hillary Barber is the chair of ballot Measure 38, which deals with the abolition of the State Accident Insurance Fund. Hillary?
Good afternoon. I would like to introduce the members of the Ballot Measure 38 Study Committee, an amazing committee, went through a lot of complicated material in a very, very short period of time. I'd ask them to please stand as I read their names. Whitney Bates, Linda Craig, Robert Geary, Mary Ella Kuster, Dylan Parkins, Sue Pierce, Roger Smith, and Roz Sutherland. Thank you all very much. Your City Club committee spent a great deal of time investigating the history of the industrial accident insurance system in Oregon, which is now known as SAFE, the state-owned, or the state entity that we have. We looked at the changes which created the three-way system that we have today with private insurers and SAFE, and the ability for companies to self-insure. And there's been a great deal of commentary and news about present activities concerning SAFE. We chose to look specifically at what Measure 38 would or would not do, and kept our report very focused on that. Our conclusions were that SAFE does not have a monopoly on industrial accident insurance in Oregon, and we found little evidence to suggest that it will become one. We also found that we felt that access to voluntary insurance for small businesses could be jeopardized if SAFE was not there. We found no concrete evidence that rates would go down as a result of the abolition of SAFE, and we found considerable dispute about whether excess reserves indeed exist, and if so, who can lay claim to them. In summary, we found that SAFE provides a valuable service to Oregon's businesses. We were also very concerned that at the time of publishing our report, we could not find any other private insurance company operating in Oregon that supported abolishing SAFE. And with that, we recommended a unanimous no vote on ballot measure 38.
I welcome any questions or any discussion. The for microphone is here, the against is here. Do we have anyone who would like to comment on this report? Bill?
Bill Parrish, City Club member, long-standing work in the financial industry, interaction with a lot of insurance companies, although I have no conflicts of interest. SAFE's a very good organization. It's a terrific organization. Let's fix it rather than allow a windfall for one particular company who's done an extraordinary PR campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. More discussion?
Ed Press, City Club member. My son has a very small company, and he had just one employee. I felt and he felt that if it weren't for SAFE, his premiums would probably have been doubled. So I'm in favor of the committee report.
Thank you. Megan?
May we call the question? May we call the question?
Thank you. The question has been called. We'll now proceed with the vote to adopt the report, which recommends a no vote on Measure 38. The vote to approve, again, just requires a simple majority, so all of you who are in favor of adopting a no vote on Measure 38 and adopting the report, please raise your cards and hold them high. How are the arms holding out? Looks good from here. Some of them are starting to wobble. All right, thank you. And now, if you are opposed to the adoption of this report, please raise your cards, your voting cards, so we can count those in opposition. All right, it looks as if we have a majority. I think I was remiss also, so if any of you would like to vote no on the adoption of the report on Measure 34, please raise your voting cards at this time. All right, both of the reports have been adopted by City Club members, but I appreciate that there was interesting discussion, and I'm sorry that I ignored part of the opposition on the first one. So both Ballot Measure 34 report and Ballot Measure 38 report recommending a no vote on those issues has been adopted as official position of City Club. Thank you very much. And thank you, too, to the committees. This is long, laborious work, and I hope you'll have the opportunity to read the report because they're very thorough and very interesting and enlightening. Now, let's move on to the pièce de résistance. We have a few announcements first. I'll try to make them very brief because we really are anxious to hear our guests today. Candidates Gone Wild, which is second time that City Club has co-sponsored that, will be held at the Roseland Theater Monday, October 18th. We'll have Jim Francisconi and Tom Potter, David Wu and Golia Mary, and Nick Fish and Sam Adams, and musical guest The Minders. So that should be fun. You'll see them uncensored. Also, we are going to take a closer look at Ballot Measure 37, and that will be Wednesday, October 20th at 7 p.m. at the Multnomah Building, just across the bridge. And speakers include Al Johnson, who's a land use attorney, Marcus Cemental, board member, Henry Richmond, an attorney, and it'll be modified by Jill Fuglister, I am so sorry, Executive Director of Coalition for a Livable Future. And next Friday forum sounds like something from a Robert Ludlum novel. It's called The Greenspan Betrayal. Don't know whether it has any subplots, but it's The Greenspan Betrayal and Other Tales of the Tortured American Tax System. That's a way to get people to come and listen to taxes. The speaker will be Pulitzer Prize-winning tax reporter David K. Johnston, who's an author of Perfectly Legal, and he writes, I believe, for the New York Times. And details on all of these events are available in the bulletin and on our website at pdxcityclub.org. I'd like to just mention briefly that we had our hard hat event last night to inaugurate our new facility here. It was absolutely wonderfully attended. And as I've said before, many good things in life are free, but furniture and technology are not on that list. And so we had some great contributions by individuals, but in addition to that, John Russell, who's a longtime board member and a well-known local Portland contractor, has offered a challenge to other businesses or organizations in the city. John Russell will put $5,000 toward our new space if he gets 4 others who will contribute $5,000 as well. Portland General agreed to put another $5,000 in, so we just have 3 organizations that we would like to hear from who are willing to help us furnish our new space, and we may be a little immodest in saying we may be changing the face of O'Brien Park because we're going to have hotspot. We're going to have wireless that you can access from out there, so instead of some of the usual, oh, what a day, folks. Instead of some of the usual trades that go on there, we'll be maybe trading blogger sites. So, and we may even have our own soapbox, a la Hyde Park. So we would very much appreciate your help in creating our new community civic space. It's ground level. We want you to come in for events and coffee. And if you're a member of any organization that would be willing to help us by meeting John Russell's challenge gift, we would love to hear from you. Now, I think we've had just about enough of the sound problems today. I think it's all going to go really well from now on because I would like to introduce our speakers. Oh, I seriously forgot to mention that our corporate underwriting is provided this quarter by McEwen Gisvold LLP, Medico Support Services, Inc., and The Standard. We're very grateful for their support. Now, onto the program. Dr. Peter Kohler is the president of the Oregon Health and Science University. He's a former dean at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio, and he's active in health policy, research, and education at the national level. He's noted for his advocacy for increased access to health care and for the quality of life for underserved populations. Dr. Kohler is a graduate of the University of Virginia and Duke Medical School with postgraduate training at Duke and Georgetown. He began his career in medicine at the National Institute of Health, and he was selected as president of the Oregon Health Sciences University in 1998. Dr. Kohler has become a leader in state health policy and education issues, and he's led efforts to increase the number of generalists being trained. And in 1995, Dr. Kohler led the university in a successful effort to establish itself as a freestanding corporation. Mark Edlen is a principal in the firm of Gerding Edlen, and he's widely recognized for his expertise and success in the commercial real estate industry. At Gerding Edlen, he directs all phases of the company's projects from pre-construction due diligence and feasibility analyses to overall management of the development process. Gerding Edlen has successfully completed nearly $1 billion of development since its inception and has acquired a reputation for its ability to conceive and execute complex mixed-use projects, as this one today is. Mr. Edlen holds an MBA in Finance and Administration. And to our speakers, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kohler.
Thank you for that nice introduction. I'm afraid the title of today's presentation, OHSU's Prescription for the South Waterfront, is a bit too presumptuous. And I want to assure you that from the very beginning, in considering what might happen there, we have had strong partners in our discussions, including the city, the PDC, Homer Williams, Mark Edlen. At the same time, I think the South Waterfront is a very large part of Portland's future, and I do think it's important to be familiar with what's going on there. I don't think it's exceptionally risky, as the advertising for this event suggested. For example, the public dollars going into this are relatively small. The whole package is about $1.9 billion, and there's no general fund money going into the project to my knowledge, but I'll defer to Mark on that particular part. I want to talk a little bit about OHSU and our plans for the waterfront, And I also want to step back in time for just a minute to explain to you how we got to our present location and what our course of action may be. Most of you probably know that the mission of OHSU is captured in the phrase, where healing, teaching, and discovery come together. What you may not know is how we came to Marquam Hill in the first place. In 1887, the University of Oregon Medical School was granted a charter by the state and opened its doors in a 2-room building on the land belonging to Good Samaritan Hospital in Northwest Portland. 7 years earlier, in 1880, the newly formed Oregon Railway and Navigation Company was seeking land to build a locomotive turning station and terminal to extend their Columbia River line to Portland. It purchased 360 acres close to downtown Portland, including Marquam Hill. It's not clear who authorized that decision for the purchase, but it seems quite apparent that the land was bought sight unseen. Responsibility probably falls on Henry Villard, the president of the company, who lived in New York City and Wiesbaden, Germany. The company's first annual report in 1880 offered this glowing assessment. The property in question is unusually well suited for the terminal purposes. The opportunity to purchase it at a reasonable price was indeed a fortunate one. By 1882, the company's report indicated the engineers had decided to abandon efforts to build a terminal in downtown Portland. The company suffered, in fact, from aggressive land purchases of this very type. In 1900, the railroad became a subsidiary of Union Pacific. Meanwhile, the University of Oregon Medical School was outgrowing its cramped quarters in Northwest Portland. In 1913, Kenneth J. McKenzie became the new dean. He was determined to establish a thriving medical center away from the city's noise and grime. Dean McKenzie also served, since the faculty at that time were part-time, as chief surgeon for the Oregon Railway and Navigation Company. He knew that they had holdings on Marquam Hill, and there was talk of a hilltop park. He persuaded the company in 1914 to donate to the school 20 acres of land for a new campus. There was much opposition, I should tell you, to the idea of building a medical school on the top of the hill. It was then accessible only by a winding wagon road situated 1.5 miles from the center of the city. Many spoke disparagingly of Mackenzie's folly, but the gift was consummated by the legislature in 1915 and appropriated $50,000 for the purpose of the new building. The school later gifted 9 acres to the county, and in 1923, Multnomah County Hospital opened on that site. In 1926, the original Dornbecker Hospital was built on land donated by the family of C.S. Jackson, former publisher of the Oregon Journal newspaper. From that time on, we grew rather slowly. The site was impossible for railroads, of course, but it wasn't ideal for a growing medical center either. It was hard to reach, rugged, and difficult to build on. But progress was made. In 1956, thanks to Senator Hatfield and others, actually Senator Hatfield was governor at that time, the first teaching hospital was built. In 1987, Senator Hatfield also helped jumpstart the research at OHSU with federal dollars for the Vollum Institute, joint effort with Leonard Laster along with Howard Vollum. Through the years, though, I think our progress has been largely invisible to the city. We are still an island on a woody hilltop to some degree. But our journey of growth and change has produced some fairly dramatic results. In 1975, our operating budget was $80 million a year. Roughly 40% came from the state, and we had 4,300 employees. Today, our operating budget is $1.2 billion a year. Roughly 3.2% of that comes from the state, and we have about 11,500 workers. A key step to our growth was becoming a public corporation in 1995. The background for that was both managed care and the passage of Measure 5 here in this state. The governor and the legislature were willing to work with us to develop creative solutions. The result was that OHSU maintained our public mission, but gained control of our strategic decision-making. Now we have a board of directors and run much more like a private business, but still with a very important public mission. The OHSU hospital has grown from essentially a county hospital with a bimodal patient mix, too poor or too sick to go elsewhere, to Portland's #1 hospital by the most recent National Research Corporation survey. Our research, and I think this is largely stimulated by the creation of the Violum Institute, has grown from just $14 million per year in the mid-1980s to $260 million in awards this past year. We should hit $300 million very soon once we have space and places in which to put our scientists. Aiming for the top 20 ranking among health and science universities has been our goal now for over 15 years. And reaching that goal requires persistence as well as space. We have added roughly 2 million square feet of buildings in the past 2 decades. Our strategic plan in 2000 indicated that steps were needed to reach that top 20 to add at least 2.2 million square feet by the year 2030, a 70% increase. This will probably be seen as a conservative estimate later. Despite significant space constraints, we are now adding 600,000 square feet to the Hill. This includes a new biomedical research building, 270,000 square feet, including state-of-the-art laboratory space and advanced imaging. That will be completed in the fall of 2005, and a new patient tower, 11 floors, 330,000 square feet for both inpatient and outpatient care. Both buildings are being constructed in such a way that there is extra capacity, but that will require funding. But now we are essentially out of space on the Hill. Unless we tear down existing buildings, which someday we may do, but not right now, we needed to explore other options. If the Hill is saturated, where should we look? To the river. The determination to pursue South Waterfront was driven by the need to find flat land. The proximity to Marquam Hill was important to maintain synergy, which it does, between education, patient care, and research. The riverfront was immediately attractive, nearly 120 acres, largely unused, as you know, close to downtown and the Hill, if transportation challenges could be addressed. Despite the controversy which we know it has engendered, we believe the tram fits squarely with Oregon values. Cheaper, safer, cleaner, and quieter than the shuttle buses that were frequently mentioned as alternatives. The tram is key to maintaining the one central city campus concept with high connectivity and accessibility. A 3-minute tram ride is like a moving sidewalk across our campus. Research and patient care need to work together. Translational research is a key link between commercialization and our inventions. This connection between academic medicine and bioscience will be critical for the future life sciences industry, as well as for our other core missions. OHSU spun off 7 new companies in 2004, up from 6 in the previous year. These companies range from healthcare software to medical devices to drug discovery. They are early and none are in a production phase as yet. Steve Lawton, academic director of the Oregon Executive MBA program, believes OHSU has the potential to be a catalyst and key player in Oregon's innovation economy. In fact, he thinks that many people are underestimating OHSU's potential in this area. One example could be found in this morning's Business Journal. I think there's a story there on a report by the Milken Institute that shows Oregon's position with respect to biopharmaceuticals is quite low, and it is. Remember that the initiative we call the Oregon Opportunity really started in 2002. The first state funds came in December of that year. Recruitment and construction are in the early stages, though research funding is up because of our recruitment even before the new facilities come online. It is important to note that the OHSU Foundation has raised $260 million of the $300 million private match, with 26 months remaining in the original time frame. Steve Lawton, again, thanks to South Waterfront, can be a key to economic and technology development, similar to the way the Pearl District has been a key to retail and residential development. Steve will be presenting to our faculty retreat next month. I'm assuming the City Club might be interested at some time in inviting him to speak here. But you need to know that space is a critical for industry development. We need incubator space, plus space for our company growth and expansion, and the South Waterfront is an ideal location. I'm pleased to be able to report that we are involved in discussions that we expect to lead to at least one additional large privately financed laboratory building on our current property at South Waterfront. Our first building, Building 1, will be described by Mark, but I want to just make a couple comments about that. It will be home to a major clinical facility as well as a wellness center run by our School of Nursing that we think will fit very well into the residential environment on South Waterfront. It will also include clinical research facilities. Our biomedical engineering program, a new program through OGI, will also be located in that building. We also hope to qualify for LEED's Platinum status as a green building on that particular location. That building has over 400,000 square feet and will be completed in mid-2006. This all means adding these together. And by the way, this is a partnership with our practice group that we have over 1 million square feet of building space under construction. The long-term future of the waterfront also includes the Schnitzer campus, a property gift of 20 acres of land just south of Markham Bridge, worth approximately $34 million. This is the largest valued land gift, or gift actually, in OHSU's 117-year history. Only once in a generation does a significant gift create an opportunity for transformation. There is clearly nationally, as well as in this state, a need to modernize healthcare and educate professionals in a way that anticipates the healthcare of the 21st century and the deliveries that we will use for that. We have an opportunity on that campus to create a model health and science education campus from scratch. This should set a standard nationally. It should meet the need for highly trained healthcare providers and scientists in an evolving health system. We will focus on collaborative instruction, interdisciplinary instruction, and capitalize on the synergy among these disciplines. The Schnitzer campus is really a blank canvas, but the same is true for the South Waterfront as a whole. Together, they provide a setting for a vibrant community, adding a new dimension to Portland and the region. OHSU may have a prescription for South Waterfront, but as I mentioned before, OHSU does not act alone, or is not acting alone. We've had critical collaborators to make this complicated, and it is quite complicated, development happen. And again, let me mention the city with Mayor Katz, PDC, PSU, and developers like Mark, who you'll hear from in a second, and Homer Williams. This riverfront, which will have classrooms and laboratories, plazas and gathering places, shops and housing, green space and bike trails, conference facilities, and office space for bioscience company, needs both to serve the needs for modern bioscience education and research, but also to attract additional corporations to the area. We cannot afford to abandon Pill Hill, but the tram will soar from Riverside to Hilltop, taking in sweeping views of the city and surrounding landscape. This will create a single large campus stretching from the hill to the South Waterfront. Healing, teaching, and discovery will still come together, but on a larger campus and more connected to Portland than ever. We are so enthusiastic about the potential for exciting growth on this last large tract of riverfront land that we know of in a major American city that we've hired an excellent manager, Mark Williams, former director of the Merck. He will be our South Waterfront project director working with Steve Statham on this signature project. I find myself overusing the word transformational, but it certainly applies both to the Schnitzer campus and the South Waterfront project at large. Thank you, and now I'll turn this over to Mark.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today about what we view as the largest economic development opportunity, certainly that I've been involved in my career, which is getting longer by the day. We all know the history of the area as an industrial neighborhood. In fact, there are operating businesses down there today that continue. This area has been viewed as an opportunity for years by the city, the region, and certainly by the property owners as well as the private developers. However, it really took a couple of key events to happen, in my opinion. The first was several years ago when Williams and Dame Development acquired their first site in the district, which took a lot of ambition and courage to move forward in an industrial area like that. What has really sparked it, though, has been OHSU's commitment to seek a solution for space and choosing South Waterfront. It's driven by the growth and as envisioned and subsequently achieved under Dr. Kohler's leadership. As you know, today OHSU has approximately 2.7 million square feet up on the hill and is continuing to grow, as you heard from Dr. Kohler. We also know that OHSU is the largest employer in the city. Even though we've had controversies in this city about keeping companies in the central business district, I think the city ought to be applauded in the efforts and the cooperation that they put forward in assisting OHSU, while at the same time striking a balance for the neighbors and the neighborhoods. The South Waterfront, we believe, will allow OHSU to add approximately 4,500 additional employees over the coming years. OHSU is a unique institution. It's almost a three-pronged institution as I view it as an outsider. And that is, first, you have the medical group, including the hospital and the practice groups. Second, you have the teaching aspect of the university. And third, the research component that you heard has grown significantly. Interestingly, if I'm a doctor at OHSU, which fortunately I'm not for the patients up there, if I was a doctor at OHSU, in the morning I might be doing surgery, at noon I might be teaching a class, and in the evening or afternoon I might be doing research in a lab, creating new technologies or perfecting ones I'm working on. Therefore, the connections are absolutely critical. And if you think about OHSU and attracting researchers, as one of my partners often says, they're like baseball teams. They bring money and they bring people, which are something we want here in Portland. So creating an efficient way for them to get back and forth from the hill to do surgery or practice medicine, or down in the South Waterfront doing research was absolutely critical and makes us more competitive, quite frankly, with other institutions, not only on the West Coast, but across the United States to attract these people. OHSU really has acted as the catalyst that I think many of us in the private sector and the public sector have been looking for years to anchor something such as the South Waterfront. As anybody knows that's been down there, there is virtually no infrastructure in the district. Simple things such as streets, sewer, and water, and they all cost a lot of money. In addition to OHSU, and you heard Dr. Kohler talk about partnerships, and this has truly been, I think, an exceptional public-private partnership to be involved in, and one that's very exciting. Dr. Kohler mentioned a number of people, and I would like to also. But in addition to OHSU, Williams and Dame Development has been a key partner from the beginning and one of the key visionaries in making this project happen. Others included Mayor Katz and the entire City Council, who, quite frankly, without their support and encouragement, I'm not sure we could have all gotten through and gotten to the point where we are today. The Planning Department, led by Gil Kelly. Portland Development Commission was there at every step of the day, and it was led by Don Mazziotti, Abe Farkas, and Cheryl Tweedy, and I can tell you from personal experience, they don't know an 8-to-5 day. They were there nights, weekends, whatever it took to make it happen, they were there right alongside with the rest of us. And other departments such as Transportation and Parks. The public improvements that are going into the district not only include the streets, sewers, and water, but also transportation, the tram that you heard about, as well as the streetcar. The tram will be completed in the first quarter of 2006. I understand the construction contract has already been let and is expected to start construction in the first quarter of next year. Streetcar, which is currently being extended from Portland State down to River Place, is expected to be completed in 2005, with the actual cars going into service in 2006. So both pieces will be in place before the first buildings are completed. The cost of the infrastructure has been estimated at approximately $103 million, of which I'm told approximately $71 million is being paid for by public sources such as tax increment financing, and $32 million being paid for through private funds through an LID that we read about in this morning's paper. The cost of the $103 million is spread roughly $55 million for transportation, $26 million for streets and utilities, $10 million for affordable housing, $7 million for parks and greenway, and yes, we will be building new public parks in the district itself, and $5 million for economic development. Again, the connections, when you think about the infrastructure and transportation, are crucial. As we've seen down the Pearl District, the streetcar has really benefited the district and really made it very lively. We expect it will do the same thing here. Much as the tram will connect the South Waterfront to OHSU, the streetcar will create a connection not only to the central business district, but to one of our other key economic development drivers in this area, and that's Portland State University. The district itself includes approximately 130 acres. At the north end, the former Schnitzer property, which you heard Dr. Kohler talk about with a legacy donation that was made by the family to OHSU, and I understand will be known as the Schnitzer campus, plus the Zidell property immediately south of it. What's called the Central District, and we refer to as the River Blocks, is approximately 31 acres and extends south of the Zidell property. The area south of the Central District, we're not too imaginative with our naming here, are we? The area south of the Central District, we're calling the South District, consists of approximately 30 acres, and we're now starting to study it. I don't want to imply that we have properties under ownership. We do have some, but not all of it. There are multiple property owners in the area. Our vision for the Central District, I think, is very, very exciting. It's not the Pearl District in many ways, but it does have some similarities. We quite often talk about the Pearl District as being our history, the last 100 years, and it's truly come to vision over the last 5 to 7 years, as we all know. We really see the South Waterfront as the next 100 years, the future for Portland, and hopefully for our children. Looking at creative technologies that are coming out of OHSU, it was really a founding factor for us in thinking about the vision for the district and making it look to the future as opposed to history. Additionally, the South Waterfront enjoys the river. Many natural environments, Ross Island across the way, which will be transformed over the coming years as it goes back to public use. When we started our demolition of the first buildings, we had to get permits that evolved around when the eagles nested on Ross Island Bridge. We have an opportunity here to create an environment that I think is truly unique, where the built environment will meet the natural environment. We expect 10,000 jobs to be developed in the district, led by OHSU, spinoffs from OHSU, research, and new companies to the region who seek to be close to or associated with OHSU. You heard Dr. Kohler talk about one organization that is actually looking at doing a new building down there. Believe me, we are getting inquiries. We are actually quite amazed by it. I know a lot of people have asked questions about the validity of it, but it is already starting to happen. We expect to see 3,000 housing units at approximately 3.2 million square feet with a value of $1.3 billion, 1.4 million square feet of commercial space and related support functions, again predominantly led by OHSU, with a value ranging between $500 million and $1 billion, depending on what component of it is research-oriented. A hotel, 788 affordable housing units, with a total value approaching $2 billion. And it's not just a dream. If you've been down I-5, if you've been down Macadam Avenue, or even from places in the Central Business District, I'm proud to say you now see 3 tower cranes in the air. It's under construction. It is happening. It's not a vision or a dream. It's reality. Currently under construction, we have 4 components. All of the infrastructure is being led by Williams and Dame Development, again at $103 million. OHSU's first building we have under construction at $140 million. Our first condominium building, which we're doing in joint venture partnership with Williams Dame, is under construction at $110 million, and we're about to complete our marketing center. As to OHSU's first building, a few more facts about it. It's approximately 400,000 square feet. When we started, we hoped we could get demand for 250,000. We had to say stop at 400,000. There's 50,000 square feet of excess demand still looking for a home down there, a start perhaps to the next OHSU building. Again, it includes a wellness center, as Dr. Kohler talked about, which will be a new entry into OHSU for those of us on the public side. It'll include health improvement classes, fitness classes, team activities and sports, health education, exercise and therapy pools, studios, and a day spa. The building will have 5,000 square feet of retail space at grade, a space for a restaurant. We are getting multiple inquiries at this time from restaurant operators wanting to open. It'll also include conferencing, surgery, clinical, 4 floors of wet and dry labs, plus approximately 600 subterranean parking stalls spread over 2 blocks, creating not only the base for OHSU's first building, but the base for their second building as well. We started construction in March and will finish in the summer of 2006. Dr. Kohler talked about sustainability. OHSU is to be complimented for embracing the sustainable concepts and going towards a platinum LEED building. I'm told that if we are successful in getting a platinum rating, it'll be the first medical research building in the country to attain it. Again, Oregon leading the way. Some of the items that we're including are daylighting, photovoltaic cells that will generate energy, and a new one for us, taking it off the sewer system and creating our own sewage treatment system. You can imagine some of the jokes at the construction meetings about that one. The second building we have under construction is the Merriweather, which is the first condominium building. We started it in April and will be done in late 2006. It's approximately a 400,000 square foot building consisting of 240 units of housing, ranging from as small as 700 square feet to as large as 3,000 square feet. It also has retail at the base of the building consisting of approximately 14,000 square feet and related subterranean parking. It's quite a different design that has not been seen in Oregon nor the Northwest. It'll consist of 2 towers of 21 and 24 stories each, and it will have unique small floor plates of approximately 8,500 square feet in one building and 10,000 square feet in the other building, in contrast to what you see in the Pearl District, where you have bases that are 20 to 25,000 square feet. Therefore, there'll be quite a bit fewer units per floor. It'll be much more elegant, much more glassy, lacy, forward-looking, if you will. We also think that this design with the small footprints will create unique view corridors through the district, acting to invite and attract people down from the freeway in Macadam into the district towards the river. We think it will also preserve views through the district for neighbors to the west, as well as those people that are in the district itself. We're also creating green roofs on the buildings, which we think will act like fingers extending up from the water, if you will, inviting those who may be biking, jogging, or strolling down on the waterfront up into the district to explore it and experience it. Units will be priced from approximately $170,000 to over $1 million. And I am very pleased to say, much to our amazement, it is 60% reserved in both buildings already. And we open our marketing center on November 1st. We're very pleased. We're currently in planning for the second condominium building, which will be a block off the water. It's called the John Ross, after the Ross Island. We hope to start construction in March of next year. It'll be another new design for Portland in that it'll be an elliptical-shaped building with a floor plate of approximately 12,000 square feet, with approximately 300 units extending 32 stories into the air. They will be smaller units. We really see this design and aim more towards perhaps the first-time buyer or younger buyers. The units themselves will range from approximately 600 square feet to as large as 2,000, with a smaller average of approximately 1,000 square feet. We estimate the pricing of the units to be as low as in the $200,000 range. The total cost estimate for the project is $115 million. Given the demand that we're seeing for the first waterfront building, the Merriweather, we expect that we will begin planning the second waterfront building by the end of this year and perhaps start construction in the third quarter of next year. The last piece that's currently under construction is the marketing center. We've been quietly redesigning and taking a building that's down on Bancroft that was a warehouse and turning it into a marketing center that will include 10,000 square feet of space, not only to showcase the housing components, but the entire district, whether that be retail, educational, health, or whatever, and an opportunity for OHSU, as well as those of us on the private side, to showcase what's going on in the district. It will open on November 1st, and we invite you all to come down. The South District, which extends obviously south of the Central District, down to and through Bancroft Street, is one that we've just begun studying. We believe it has equal opportunity to the Central District with over 3,000 housing units at almost 4 million square feet valued at $1.5 billion. We also think there's the opportunity to create over 1.3 million square feet of commercial space valued at over $400 million. The total potential for the district from south of Zidell's property down through Bancroft Street, we believe is approximately 6,000 housing units, 2.7 million square feet of commercial space, all with a potential value of $4 billion. Perhaps most importantly, creating opportunities, economic and employment opportunities for those of us that are here, hopefully others that would like to come to the city, and most importantly, for our children to stay here. I quite often in these talks like to wrap up by saying, if you're the expert from afar, I have to apologize for you. Portland has tremendous talent, in my opinion, on the design and construction side, and we truly enjoy showcasing the talent that's here. As you've heard several times, this is really all about partnerships, and without these folks, we could not have even had a chance of making this happen. While there are far too many to mention, a few of the key ones are GBD Architects, who also did the brewery blocks, Thompson Viboda, Graham Everly Norman, OTAC, Ankrum Moisen, KPFF, Glumac and Interface, Walker Macy, Turner Construction, and Hoffman Construction. Truly, we've got some economic development in the works. In conclusion, my opinion, I think as a city and a region, we have been given an unparalleled opportunity to capitalize on the very forward thinking of visionary people such as Dr. Kohler and Mayor Katz. We've been given the opportunity to think big, to dream, to create, to innovate, and now we're building. On behalf of all of us that are involved in this extraordinary opportunity, I invite you to join us to learn more about it and share in our enthusiasm. Thank you.
Wow. In any case, it is now time for the question and answer period. Our Board of Governors Representative Tamsin Wassell will have the opportunity to ask the first question. She is the first Vice President of the Board of Governors. She also chairs the Research Committee, and she's a partner in the management consulting firm of RTC LLS. In any case, Dr. Kohler has said that he can stay for another 10 or 15 minutes for questions. Mark, are you? Okay, so we can extend the question and answer period a little bit, and I'd be delighted if you would pull the for and against off so that they won't get any wrong ideas. Tamsin?
Thank you, both Dr. Kohler and Mr. Edlen. Clearly, the enthusiasm for economic development these days is high amongst all of us as we look across Oregon and its unemployment and its economy in general. So this is a really exciting opportunity. But one of the criticisms that has come out of the River District and the Pearl District, and that we heard a little bit of the same kind of thing in this talk today, the private sector was already moving to start to develop this area in South Waterfront. They had started to buy some property. OSHU, really another private sector employer, was interested in moving there. And it also sounds like all of these great partnerships really demonstrates the positive side of capitalism. So my question is, why should the city or PDC through the tax increment financing put any money into this effort? Wouldn't this just happen because of the demand of the private sector, and aren't they the ones that are going to be truly the winners out of this?
I'll take a shot at it. As a private developer, when you look at a project like this, it would be very, very difficult to front end a single block in a single building with $100 million worth of streets, sewer, and water. I know when we looked at this, I remember back when the state office building was in play probably 20 years ago. And even back then, at that point in time, for one office building to come down here, it would have been very difficult to make it happen. I think it truly only could have happened with a public-private partnership such as Portland is so good at putting together. And I think the return to the city and the schools and the county through the property taxes that are going to be generated off of the housing product and hopefully other taxable commercial product that will happen over time will be repaid many, many fold.
Can I just add to that? I'm not at all sure that it would have happened anytime soon without getting everybody together, and that the initial steps being made by the private developers such as Homer Williams and Dane really were with the understanding that we were going to work together in the future to get something like this done. That's my belief, and I think that's right.
I'm Oliver Massengill, City Club member. I'm also a physician, and although I'm not an alumnus of your institution, I've been on the clinical faculty for many, many years up there. You described a very exciting and ambitious program for OHSU. My question to you, Dr. Kohler, is with what must be almost overwhelming administrative responsibilities, how do you find the time and the energy to be involved with the potential sale of Portland General Electric to Texas Pacific?
I wondered if somebody would ask that. The involvement with Texas Pacific is really, or Oregon Electric or PGE, is really a part-time board job if it does occur. You may know that I already am involved with many things both locally and nationally already. I have done an analysis of the time involved to do this if it were to occur, if it does occur, and have actually unloaded my schedule in such a way that I think this can be done without difficulty. This is not at all taking away my major attention from OHSU, which is where it has to be, and making sure that our ambitious plans do get carried out. Thank you for asking.
Hi, Chris Smith, City Club member. I want to ask about another one of the funding mechanisms, the local improvement districts. And I'll say that I'm not unbiased about this. I'm a member of the board of Portland Streetcar Incorporated, and of course we wouldn't have a streetcar if it weren't for local improvement districts. But lately we found these a little more challenging, and I think you alluded to the newspaper article that one of your districts is under challenge, as is the district for the downtown transit mall right now. And there seem to be competing views about why this is. One view is that, and of course, ideally an LID is a partnership between property owners and government to fund an improvement that will benefit the property owners and the community. In this case, there seem to be a couple of competing views. One is perhaps that there's a set of property owners who benefit disproportionately, who are kind of forcing their will on the other property owners. Perhaps the competing view is that some of the property owners just don't get the vision for the benefit they're going to receive. What's your thought about the challenges we're seeing with your LID and the downtown LID right now?
There's a number of questions there. I'm reflecting back on the last presidential debate and how to answer them. I think certainly anytime you have a large project, there's going to be disagreement, and I think we're all entitled to that disagreement or agreement, whatever the case may be. I think there is challenges in the downtown one that's ongoing right now. Personally, I think the condominiums ought to be included. As it's being done, as I understand right now, on the transit mall, the condominiums are being excluded, and it's falling on the commercial. And my reasoning for that is I think that the condominiums can afford to share it. Also, I think we've put a lot on business. And quite frankly, my concern is I want our city to be as competitive as possible to retain and attract new businesses into the central business district, the South Waterfront, but most importantly to keep them in the area.
Denise Bauman, City Club member. This is a non-controversial question. One of the impediments to development down there in the past has been access, that you can't get there, you can't figure out how to get out. Are there plans to somehow change the transportation access to that part of town?
Let me start out and ask Mark to add in. This is one of the reasons that we feel like the combination of the tram moving people in and out via something which is innovative is going to be very important. Also, the streetcar going right by should help a great deal in the future. And there does need to be some work on the roads, there's no doubt about that, to make it a little bit more accessible, or a lot more accessible. But solving the transportation problem is one of the, I think, challenging aspects of that particular area.
I would add, you look around the city, and I think we have challenges virtually everywhere in the city with transportation, quite frankly. In the first phase of development of infrastructure, you will see new interchange signals along Macadam Avenue to slow the traffic down, number one. Number two, we'll look to create two real portals into the district, if you will, one at the south end of Bancroft, the other one at the north end. I think we're going to see a pretty dramatic shift in traffic patterns. If you think about going down to Johns Landing now or Lake Oswego from downtown, most of us wind through the neighborhoods to the west of the freeway. I think we're going to see a lot of that traffic upon completion shift down onto Moody and Bond and relieve some of that traffic out of those neighborhoods. The other thing, I think that the streetcar getting in and out of downtown, if you look at the street where we office down the Pearl District, as you might guess, and I sit there, look down on the streetcar every day, and the darn thing is full almost all times of the day. So I think that will be a big boost in getting people in and out of the district. So, for example, if you live down there and want to go to the new art museum that's being expanded, or a performing arts venue, or simply go downtown and shop or do business, I think we'll see an awful lot of people take the streetcar as opposed to getting in their car and driving downtown. Not to mention, I think the traffic that'll be taken off the burden going up and down the hill. So we've got some challenges, but I think we've got some potential solutions to them, and they're going to be a multimodal solution. It's going to be cars, bus, what was that movie, the old Chevy Chase movie? Cars, bus, trains, no planes though.
Hi, Pauline Anderson, member of the City Club. Mr. Edlen, you spoke about affordable housing, And now I wish that you would speak about low-income housing component, if any.
I'm not sure I can completely. There is a commitment for 788 affordable housing units. The objective is to have the housing down there mirror the overall mix of the city, if you will. So if the city has 5% of the population that is very poor, for the sake of lack of a better term, we would expect to create housing down there that would be appropriate for those folks as well. Some of the locations that we're already talking about for the housing are off of Macadam. Locations have been identified for it. We're working with various partners now to get some of that housing built, and it will occur over time as the project develops out as well.
Over time, you want to talk about what over time means?
It'll depend on economics. It'll depend on financing. It'll depend on public support, quite frankly. The first project that we're looking at this point in time is on what we call Block 31, where you'll see some large garages built, and on top of that will be program components that will include affordable housing. We're currently in design on that with the expected, hopefully, we'll commence construction if we can finance it, perhaps as early as next spring.
That's very fine. $200,000, though, is not really what I would call affordable housing for people in the low-income brackets.
No, I'm not referring to the for sale at $200,000 affordable. What I'm talking about is also having for rent components in the district, if you will, as opposed to the for sale condominiums. Certainly some people that are perhaps not as wealthy as others will be buying the smaller condominiums. On the other hand, there'll be people that could be the working poor, for lack of a better term, that will have opportunities to rent in the district as well.
Thank you.
Can I also add, we are lobbying heavily for federal support for affordable housing for that area. It is built into a lot of projects that we have, and we hope to be successful there.
Well, if we have no more questions, then I would like to invite you to come to the floor, just one level below. We'll be on the 3rd floor next week for David K. Johnston and the intriguing program that I've outlined, and want to thank our guests very, very much. Thank you.